Hi everyone, it's Vicky here from createafashionbrand.com and fashionserviceshongkong.com. This week I got an email from Craig in LA. He's on my email list. And Craig he's already started his fashion brand journey. It's a new brand. And he's at the manufacturing stage. And his question was, I created a tech pack and hired an experienced designer. If my designer had done a professional job, why does my factory have so many questions about the product and the tech pack? Okay, so Craig and everybody else, what you have to remember is that, like everything, factories are a business and they have to make as much profit as possible. Now, you're probably thinking, oh my God, I'm spending so much money on all of these products. They must be making loads of profit. Actually, they're not. Factories make very, very little per garment in terms of profit that they, pay wages with and everything else. Their strategy is to usually either persuade you as a client that things have to change and that they can do it a different way, which usually saves them money. Or they will change things and hope you don't notice. Okay, so let me give you an example. I have a client the last couple of weeks who's been going through exactly the same thing. I have a very, very experienced couple of designers who have done tech packs for this client. And on one of the products so far, I had a lot of questions back directly from the factory. She put me in touch with the factory and they'd sent me questions directly, and there was a lot of them. Every other day I was getting 10, 15 questions. Now that's really unusual, especially with the designers that I use, because they are all very, very experienced designers and they've done it a long time, and usually it's very straightforward. Without giving too much away, because I can't tell you too much about my client's work, she wanted a very, very specific pair of trousers. They were going to do a very specific job. And my designer, who created the tech pack for the trousers, because they were so non-standard, shall we say, in terms of the measurements and how everything worked together, she literally took a trouser block, which creates a pattern, and made a pattern for these new kind of shaped trousers. Just to make sure basically she'd got all the measurements correct on the tech pack, because most designers don't create patterns, okay? They literally know body measurements, they know fabrics, they know how things work together. So they don't sit there creating patterns or doing anything like that. They know pretty much with experience, everything's kind of in their head and they know just to write things down. But she felt she wanted to actually do a proper kind of pattern for this particular area of the trousers to make sure it was all working properly. And it was. And she made her pattern. The factory then come back, as I said, with all of these questions. And I was trying to explain to my clients, my client's very inexperienced, first time she's done anything like this. She's got me telling her one thing and she's got the factory telling her another. And, two experienced people, which one does she believe? And that's going to happen to you, I would think. Anyone watching this, it's going to happen to you at some point. You'll kind of have a bit of a crisis and not quite sure who to believe. Well, in terms of the factory, after they'd sent a few questions, I worked out what was going on. They basically wanted me to give them, or my designer to give them, although the email's coming to me, all the answers that a pattern cutter would usually answer. So there are some things that a designer will give out. So for certain measurements, a designer will give out. There are certain things which you won't know until you've cut a pattern and the pattern has been graded. So it's the pattern cutter's job to do some measurements, and it's the designer's job to do other measurements. Okay, if you're following me so far. They obviously didn't want to pay a pattern cutter. Now, a pattern cutter is the most expensive person in a factory's team, because essentially Everything that they do, all the production is based on that one person and their experience. So they were trying to basically get my client to change the tech pack to suit a block, a pattern that they already had for a normal pair of trousers. And in the end, we kind of said, okay, fine, they just won't give on any of these things. We were telling them, no, you need to stick to this measurement, this measurement, this measurement. And they were saying, no, that's not correct. And eventually my client gave in because she's not experienced. She didn't quite kind of know what was going on. But they were doing that to save themselves money. It wasn't to the benefit of my client, and it won't be, Craig, to your benefit either. They will either try and persuade you that you're doing something wrong, or your designer's done something wrong, and that you need to change your idea, or they might do something during the production that you just don't know about. So, for example, they might get, you see a load of fabric and you agree a particular fabric, and they might substitute that fabric for a cheaper version during production. For example, they're not going to tell you, but it saves them money. They're still charging you the same price, but they're saving themselves money and the profit goes to them. So you've really got to check every single detail. And if you don't know, or you're unsure about whether it's the factory's problem or the designer's problem or who is to blame on whatever issue and who's not quite doing their job properly, then really you need to speak to somebody who's got no bias in this. Somebody who you can get in contact with, who's going to have a conversation with you and look through it technically. That's my job in my company, and when clients come and work with me, I look through it, I discuss it with my designer. I tend to try and speak to the factory as well, to see what the questions are and where, look at the measurements and look at things, just so I can gauge what's really going on. And eventually we'll kind of get to the bottom of it. But really, there's no other way of kind of working out who's at fault until you have someone who is quite experienced looking at the questions, looking at the tech pack, looking at your design and what it is you're trying to achieve. So Craig, I know I've kind of spoken to you about this specifically, but you did ask me the question. On all the evidence that you've given me, your factory is pulling a bit of a fast one. I'll just leave it at that. You know what I'm talking about. For everybody else, I hope that's kind of been helpful. I know it's a little bit vague, but you really will have to get in touch with somebody who has a bit more experience working with factories, and who can read tech packs, just to get a second opinion, really. But if you've got a question for me and I haven't quite answered it here today or in any of the other ones, please get in contact. You can get on my newsletter email list, like Craig did, by looking at the description box below where there is a link. And also don't forget to sign up to my YouTube channel so that you can just literally comment and ask me a question by clicking on the 5-Minute Fashion Brand video link at the end of this video. If you've liked this video and it's helped you in any way, please please share it. It really helps other people get the best information as well and know a bit more about me and help them on their fashion journey. And I will see you next week for another answer to another question.